Here's part 2 of Trucking TV's interview with FTA Skills Development Policy Manager Sally Gilson. This time she's talking about funding new drivers training and foreign truckers working in the UK. One of the things, Sally, that rings all my bells, and I've seen it, and I think we've all seen this many times, is that the UK government is delighted to lend students, I don't know, £30,000 or £40,000 to actually take their degree. And hopefully when they come out of that they get a good job, but some guys come out and end up working for McDonald's. Our guys, our truckers, are out there working enormous numbers of hours, which we may come to later, but they're working hard and they're working long hours, but to get a licence costs £3,000 or £4,000, and they seem to be able to acquire very little help from the state to actually get that qualification. It doesn't seem to be readily available. No one's saying, yes, we need truckers, so let's help to train them.
I completely understand your frustration with regards to this, because it's a permanent frustration to myself personally, but also to the FTA and the members. Pretty much all we hear back from the government is that there is a career development loan available, which is currently not being utilised for driver licences. Right. But I think the main reason behind it is because it's not a product that is suited for gaining your licence. For a start, it comes at about a 9% interest rate, right, which if you compared that to a student loan, I mean, that's not even the ballpark of what they're paying. So straight away, it's very unfair. So it's I don't believe that it is something that is suited for gaining the HGV licence. What there should be is a student-style loan at student-style interest rates available, because unlike a student, somebody who's just taken their HGV licence should go straight into a job, and therefore would be able to start repaying that loan straight away. Yeah. And probably at quite a good rate, because the salaries are increasing. I think they increased by 5% last year, so you can get a good salary now working as a driver. So the government really wouldn't have much of a risk factor with that loan. Right. Whereas a student coming out of university, there's a lot of university students coming out now, and they don't all get into a good job.
One of the things that bugs UK drivers is foreign drivers, specifically foreign drivers, I think, who come across here and work for British companies at point one, and secondly, foreign drivers who come over here and it seems that no one really knows how they're working. Some of them spend, or seem to spend, 3 months camping in their trucks, and you hear apocryphal stories about people earning ridiculously low wages in the UK, far below the national average or the national wage. It really comes across as being a little bit of a minefield, and you at the moment look as if, despite Brexit, you would like to keep foreign drivers available to the UK. How does this all work? Tell me how the foreign driver situation works from the FTA point of view.
Okay. Well, I think over the past 5 years, the number of drivers that have come across from predominantly Eastern European countries has increased substantially. So 5 years ago, I think we were looking around 18,000 of the LGV drivers registered in employment were from the EU. We're now looking at 31,500. So it's been a huge increase, and it's purely off the back of the fact that we have been suffering this driver shortage. They have been ready and willing to come in and help plug the gap of the numbers of the drivers that we've required. Right. And you know, there has been specialist recruitment drives over into Eastern European countries. It is very much a plugging of the gap, because I believe that it's, especially with Brexit looming, and Article 50 probably being invoked next March, we do want to focus on actually developing UK drivers. But if we haven't got that group easily accessible, then obviously companies are going to look elsewhere. With regards to drivers that aren't here perhaps so legally, this is an issue, but I think the biggest issue about it is that there's very little in terms of enforcement, and it's trying to actually get an enforcement, whether that be police, DVSA, whoever it is, to follow up on this and actually fine drivers for either being over here illegally, or fine the companies that are employing them for much lower wages than the national living wage.
Sally Gilson from the FTA, thank you so much for having a chat. I know I've asked some difficult and uncomfortable questions. I think you've done a grand job, but I think what we'll try and do is come back to you in future and try and look at some of the subjects that we've talked about and try and get deeper in them and try and get more constructive answers for both of us, and perhaps more constructive answers for the UK's driving community. Thank you so much for coming through to us.
And thank you very much for inviting me onto Trucking TV.
Thanks for listening to these interviews on Trucking TV.